and I am Stephen Pires, the Associate Director of Sustainability at Cotton Incorporated. I'm joined today by three individuals from Quail Forever team. We're going to do a brief update on some of the sustainability activities we have going on, with a highlight on the Quail Forever project that I hope you all find really interesting and engaging. So to start, little overview again, we're going to start with looking at some of our focus areas that we like to touch on and organize all of our activities around on the sustainability team. I'd be remiss without talking about Climate Smart Cotton program that we have, so I'll touch on that a little bit. Then we'll dig into some of the consumer expectations and sentiments around sustainability in general, with a focus on biodiversity. Touch on how that plays into some brand goals and then our goals, and then we'll pass it off to the Quail team to really do a deep dive onto that project. So like we said, it's a great agenda today and I hope you enjoy it. So just to start, the sustainability division, we focus all of our efforts under 5 key buckets, and with this kind of center in mind on focusing on improving the sustainability reputation of cotton. We do this towards using the sustainability goals. That's a key sort of kingpin on how we focus our efforts. And the main way we focus on driving towards that, towards continued improvement, is with collaboration with the Cotton Trust Protocol. That's the primary vehicle of this continual improvement. And then more recently with the Cotton Trust Protocol's Climate Smart Cotton program, we really feel that those two things in concert with each other will really help drive towards the industry's sustainability goals. We do a lot of all sorts of different sustainability assessments. We have 2 going on right now. I'll say thanks to everyone who participated in the Natural Resource Survey, which is helping us do our current US focused life cycle assessment. So that's one sustainability assessment we're doing. We're also doing another one at the moment, looking at cotton seed and that life cycle assessment on cotton seed for being used as cattle feed. So that's a really exciting project as well. We also use all this data and tools that are emerging in the sustainability space. So there's a lot of different tools out there that brands are using to judge their fabric and fiber decisions, and it's critical that we get the best data possible for the industry, again, so that we lift the sustainability reputation of cotton. Circularity and biodegradability is really a continual focus for us, and it's a very strong suit for cotton being a natural fiber. We have different projects focused on circularity and biodegradability right now, one of which is the composting project, where we're looking at composting denim fabrics at a lab and industrial scale. Another thing we do is engage with the sustainability leadership community. We're participating in different working groups with organizations like Textile Exchange and the International Standards Organization, really to make sure, again, that any emerging tools that are coming out for the industry are fairly judging cotton and agricultural products in general. And this last but not least bucket, everything we do, all the great science and data that we're generating at the division, we wrap up collaboration. We collaborate with our corporate comms and supply chain marketing divisions to make sure that this work is succinctly and clearly communicated across the value chain. So again, individuals make the best possible decisions with cotton and treat it fairly. That's kind of a high level overview of where we focus our efforts and some cool projects we're working on right now. Shifting gears a little bit, this Climate Smart Cotton program that I talked about, this is a really great opportunity. I urge everyone on the call to check out the website on the screen. This was a collaboration by ourselves and the Cotton Trust Protocol. The Cotton Trust Protocol is the primary recipient of this grant award, of a $90 million award from USDA to start this Climate Smart Cotton program. You see the partners listed on the bottom right side of the screen. So we have different university partners: Soil Health Institute, AgriCenter, NCA&T, Alabama A&M, Texas A&M. And the goal here is to get growers enrolled in the Cotton Trust Protocol, kind of get them on this journey of regenerative ag, climate smart cotton, and incentivize these practices. So we want to help de-risk practices such as no-till adoption, nutrient management, and cover crop. And that will provide incentives to the growers as well to de-risk that process. So that's level 1 and 2 you see there. Level 1 is just enrolling in the protocol, and then level 2 is actually adopting a mix of those practices. Level 3 is essentially verifying the carbon reductions that are in that in those processes that you implemented, and then potentially selling that to the supply chain. We also have other individuals on the project as well that have already said that they're very interested in purchasing these carbon insets. So that is great. Another thing that's happening out here in the world is this Climate Smart Cotton program, or sorry, the Science-Based Targets program. This is a organization that essentially sets the slice of the pie. So if you think about climate change issues, society and science thinks that we need to reduce our impacts in such a way to reduce climate change by 1.5 degrees Celsius. This organization called Science-Based Targets Initiative actually breaks that down by industry and says, okay, this organization needs to reduce their emissions by X amount so that they can do their part to contributing towards that reduction. Right now, there's about 6,500 companies that have pledged to say, we want to do this, with about 2,500 saying that they're going to be net zero, and then more just creating their own targets in general. And this is really important back to the Climate Smart Cotton program, because those brands who have these net zero commitments are going to need verified carbon reductions. And one way of doing that could potentially be coming from that Climate Smart Cotton program. So that's a thing that's happening now. That Science-Based Targets Initiative is focusing on climate change, but they've also started to pivot a little bit and came up with what they're calling science-based targets for nature. You see kind of a lot going on the screen here, but there's a handful of brands that are already signed up for piloting the science-based targets for nature. And essentially what that is going one level further. So Science-Based Targets Initiative in general, as I said previously, is focused on climate change. This is actually focused on more nature-based ecosystem service type enhancement. So doing projects that enhance freshwater, land, ocean, and then biodiversity. And like I said, there's about 17 companies piloting this right now. And this Quail Forever project that we have actually ties very well into this in providing conservation and biodiversity targets that could potentially support brands on their journey here. When we think about how consumers feel about biodiversity, we found this biodiversity barometer by UEBT, and they surveyed individuals around the globe and tried to figure out what their sentiments were in terms of biodiversity. And climate change consistently ranks at the top of the list for consumer concerns about this sort of thing. Biodiversity actually comes up as second place here, which is pretty interesting. And that's just those who are ranking it as the top priority, top concern. But when you take into consideration the top three, it actually changes to 63% of consumers' focus and concern. Also, people are thinking that brands have a moral obligation to do something in terms of biodiversity, and the inaction or perceived inaction is a hurdle to their involvement and potentially purchasing with these brands. So they think that the brands have a moral obligation. This depends on where around the globe you're focusing on, but still more than 40% of the individuals around the globe feel this is a thing that needs to be focused on by brands. And we did a little meta-analysis on just some brands that we found out there, looked at the publicly facing information from their sustainability reports and just dug in a little bit to see, all right, well, what are some major brands doing in terms of making commitments towards biodiversity? You see kind of a lot going on here, but a lot of brands, of course, have sustainability sourced cotton goals. You see on the bottom right there, most of which are coming from Protocol or Better Cotton. But also they state in their reports biodiversity, different topics, and a focus on this depending on which brands you're looking at. Some have reforestation projects or other natural resource management type projects. Some have cotton projects that have biodiversity in mind. But the point is, this is sort of snowballing, becoming a bigger and bigger issue. So we have climate change, but then these ecosystem services, these sort of auxiliary concerns surrounding landscapes is becoming more and more important. And I think we're only going to see this increase in importance into the future. Luckily for us, we do have sustainability goals. Not that these are focused on biodiversity, but a lot of these would actually have an auxiliary benefit to improving biodiversity. Say if you implement cover crops, that's going to be more habitat for different species that are out there. Another thing that we have, of course, is the project that we're here to talk about today, the Quail Forever project. And this program, of course, enhances biodiversity. The premise that we're going to dig a lot deeper into with the Quail Forever team is at the highest level, sort of turning red acres green. So using precision conservation data to identify areas of a farm that might be underperforming. And the team on the call today will actually do a deep dive onto the farm and determine, if there's something else that we can do with that piece of property that would enhance biodiversity and improve revenue on the farm. This project's in collaboration with those listed on the screen. And we've started this project in Georgia and have expanded it through the years into different regions across the Cotton Belt. And the team on the call today is going to dig into this project in much more detail. Here's their contact information as well, and the website on the screen. And we really look forward to engaging with you all on this project. So with that, Brent, I think it's your turn to take the mic. If you're ready, give you a little time to get queued up. All right, cool.
Yep.
Pass it over to you, sir.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. Great overview to see kind of the need and the opportunities and really the leadership that cotton industry and many of you all have shown to address these growing sustainability concerns and interests. I'm Brent Rudolph. I'm the Director of Sustainability Partnerships with Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever. So I work nationwide out of a home office in Southern Michigan. I'm just going to take a few moments to provide kind of a general overview of some of our work and highlighting what we've done across the Cotton Belt. And then Caleb and Josh will talk a little bit more specifically about the on-the-ground work that we have been doing. Go ahead, Stephen. So our mission should be pretty obvious based on the name of our organization. We work to conserve pheasants, quail, and other wildlife through habitat improvements, public access, education, and conservation advocacy. So many of you are probably familiar with the variety of initiatives that we are involved with at a national level, at a state level, or local chapters around you. Some folks might wonder what an organization like ours is doing working on the farmscape, but over the 4-year history of our organization, we've improved about 22 million acres of habitat, and a good chunk of that is on working ground, on farms and ranches, where habitat improvements to benefit pheasants, quail, and other wildlife are also benefiting water quality, soil health, really, and farmer income as well, making it a case where environmentally responsible production that many of you all are so strongly committed to is also economically beneficial. Next slide, Stephen. So our vision really is that we help sustain a healthy environment, people, and prosperous communities through quality upland experiences and habitat. So there's a variety of other initiatives around sustainability in the corporate sphere and other places that we don't get engaged with, but we provide a lot of benefit by doing what we do well, delivering habitat projects and making sure that it provides those broad-based benefits for working lands. Next slide. So if you haven't seen the More Quail Per Bale video, I think it actually was on the last Cotton to Coffee webinar, but make sure you take a look at it. Features the operation of Nick McMicken. I saw Nick on here earlier today, but Jesse Daystar, I think, has a great quote within that production, highlighting that it's a relatively unique partnership that Cotton Corporate has with Quail Forever, but it does a great job of illustrating how the industry broadly and conservation groups can work hand in hand. And it shows that the sustainability goals the U.S. cotton industry has set for itself can be achieved through the work that we've been able to accomplish together. Next slide, Stephen. So John Deere helped support the production of that video and some of our other communications efforts. Cotton Incorporated has been an incredible leader, getting us engaged on the farm, on the ground in the Cotton Belt. Our expansion to Texas is included working with the with the sorghum checkoff and with BASF. And we have a variety of grant and agency partners that have supported our teams in this collaboration in a number of ways. Happy to provide more details about that for those that are interested. But for right now, let's keep it moving. And next slide, we'll hand it out off to Caleb and start talking about our on-the-ground work. Thank you.
Good morning. As Brent said, my name is Caleb Blake. I am the Precision Ag and Conservation Specialist here in Alabama. Just want to talk to y'all today a little bit about how it is that we are utilizing this technology to do what we call precision conservation and kind of walk y'all through what it looks like to work with us. So if you can go to the next slide, Stephen. So just wanted to give you all kind of a brief overview of what our vision is as precision ag specialists. Precision ag has a broad definition and has a broad application, but our main objective as a precision ag conservation specialist is to utilize this technology to find win-win scenarios that benefits both the farmer and wildlife. And first and foremost, our ultimate goal is to help the farmer to improve the efficiency of their operation, whether it's increasing their profits, or reducing input costs, or improving their return on investment. And in doing so, our hope is to implement conservation practices that align with our organization's mission. And ideally, effective conservation should never come at the cost of the producer. And so when working with farmers, if we cannot find those win-win scenarios that benefits the farmer first and foremost, I'm not going to make any recommendations to do any changes. So that's why our goal is to work towards those win-win scenarios. So you can go to the next slide. And so I just wanted to kind of walk y'all through kind of a brief 5-step process of what it looks like to work with us and how we operate. And this is not a set in stone process, but it kind of gives you a glimpse into how it is that we work. You can go to the next slide. So kind of the first step that we follow is, first and foremost, everything we do is built upon a foundation of trust. So before we can do anything when working with landowners, it is crucial that we build a relationship with them and earn their trust and take the time to understand that every operation is unique and that every landowner has different goals for their property. And so having that trust and that knowledge of what their goals are should be the guide for how we move forward working with them. So you can go to the next slide. So step 2 is you're connecting to their data. And the modern day pickers and combines are engineering marvels. I always joke that the technology in these combines is way more advanced than the technology that took us to the moon. And so hopefully when working with farmers, we're going to be connecting with data and utilizing that data that they're already collecting with the integrated yield monitors that are already on their combines. And, working with yield data and building profit maps is kind of our bread and butter of what we do as precision ag specialists. But people always ask, well, what if I don't have a yield monitor? Well, there's plenty of other data that we can use, whether it's NDVI data, soil maps, just general satellite imagery. There's a lot more data that we can use to gain valuable insight, but using that yield data is kind of our bread and butter. So you can get to the next slide. And so our desire is to use the software platform that a farmer's already using, if they have one. And so what we're looking for when we're analyzing this data is we're looking for those red acres that are chronically underperforming year after year. And so ideally, we would want to be looking at multiple crop years so that we're not making recommendations based off of just what might have been just one bad year. And then we want to try to investigate what are the potential causes for these red acres, like why are they underperforming year after year? Because again, every operation is unique and every field is going to have unique challenges. And I always tell people they don't need me. They don't need us as precision ag specialists to come into their farm to tell them where their underperforming areas are. They already know that. But what we can do is using this data to put numbers on the page and to put um, yeah, that build that profit map to show them those areas where year after year you are in the red here and losing money. And so let's see what kind of scenarios we can run to kind of come up with alternative solutions. You can go to the next slide. And so when running these scenarios that offer various solutions for those red acres, we're doing so with the farmer's return on investment in mind and with the aim of meeting their ultimate goals for their property. And so everything that we offer to the farmer is completely voluntary. When we hand over our recommendations, it is up to them for what they want to do moving forward. And so alternative solutions could include converting to wildlife habitat, implementing filter strips and field borders. We could also talk about, converting to no-till, strip-till, cover crops. And if the farmer wants to explore cost share programs, whether it's through the NRCS or other programs, we can help them navigate that and be a trusted resource in that process. Next slide. And so finally, once we have analyzed the data, explored the alternative solutions for those red acres, we could come up with a written management plan that details everything that we've discussed up to this point and decided upon that is geared towards meeting the farmer's goals. And again, if they decide to pursue cost share programs or other conservation programs, we will help them navigate that process and help them to involve any other collaborators such as NRCS staff, other biologists or contractors, and be a resource there. Next slide. And ultimately our goal is to take scenarios like this where you might be making money in most of the field, but there are also every field has red acres where you're in the red there and you're losing money year in year out planting there. And so we want to look at those scenarios and explore what is it going to do if we take that area out of production, convert it back to a natural habitat that both benefits the wildlife and helps protect the natural resources in the rest of the fields and eliminates that sunk cost. Next slide. So just to kind of sum it all up, our hope is that utilizing precision ag technology to do precision conservation can result in increased profit, return on investment, actual production history, and soil health, while also decreasing the overall risk of the operation, input cost, the break-even number, and soil erosion. And so with that, I'm going to pass it off to Josh. Thank y'all.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Joshua McNa, and I am the Precision Ag and Conservation Specialist in Texas. I'm based out of Lubbock, but if you were anywhere else in the state, eastern New Mexico, southern Kansas, Oklahoma, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll cover everything. And so Caleb highlighted a lot of the basics of what we do. I'm going to more talk into the economics of how we get it done. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Stephen. So the first thing I want to cover, the question I get asked a lot is, how much does it cost for us to do what we do? We are completely free. We're here for you to use. It doesn't cost you a thing for us to analyze your data and come and look at your farm. I get that question a lot, and it doesn't cost you anything. I do also want to point out all the figures I have up here are on the low side. The $40 an hour to run a tractor that I use, that was from 2018 from Deere. Right now, they're estimating it's about $60 to $70 an hour, and that is not including fuel, DEF, any of the fluids you put in there. That's just oil change, maintenance on some U-joints and stuff that you're going to use, and the depreciation of the hours you run it. So the cost to till acres and put them in production is just continuously going up. Like Caleb said, I haven't really been to a farmer that doesn't know where their underperforming acres are. It's might be a challenge for them to get to admit that, but most of the time they know exactly where it's at. They might not know how big it is, and that's where a lot of the ag data we use comes into. We can pinpoint a pretty good map of what's underperforming. And that's kind of the other thing. A lot of people don't understand how much money it's taking them to put an acre into production. I put 200 pounds on here. 200 pounds is kind of on the low end. What is cotton today? 77, 78 cents. You're probably looking like 230, 240 pound supplies to break even. That's you not making much profit at all. Texas A&M AgriLife, they're putting the figure right at about 300 pounds for you to break even, and that is the average across the state. But it's costing a lot of money to till ground. So you gotta kind of figure that into operation. Most people around here aren't figuring that into how much it's costing them. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And this next one, I just want to get everybody's mind going. There's a lot of other things you can do besides till cotton, into ground that's not making anything. We want nothing but for you to make a lot of cotton on the acres that you can make a lot of cotton on. We love it. We love to see it. We don't want to mess with that at all. We're just focused on the stuff that's not making a whole lot that you can do something else in. Here in the South Plains, we're right on the Central Flyway. Anybody here knows now that hunting is really becoming a profitable endeavor right now. And so we're here to help you in any way. We're not species oriented. We do want to see quail and pheasant, but the big thing up here now is crane, waterfowl. We'll help you have your whatever animal you want to go with. We'll help you out in any way we can. So I guess I'll pass it back to Brent.
Yeah, thanks everybody. So you've got our contact information here. Yeah, we really welcome questions, welcome feedback. Really appreciate everything you've done to have us be part of this program, and Stephen for teeing everything up. I think if we added the last one in, yep, here we go. We had a couple events coming up where Caleb and Josh will be. So if you're in some of these areas, again, you can always feel free to reach out and see, work with them if there's a consultation and visit you want to set up. But if you're at some of the upcoming ag shows, just the start of the list, there'll be additional ones. So you can always keep checking in on our website or directly with folks if there's also a upcoming event. We might have some questions about whether they would be there to catch up with and chat one-on-one. And with that, I think we're happy to shift to our moderated session and see what kind of questions and feedback there is for any of us, including Stephen.